Tim. Welcome back to Watchbox and thanks for logging on. Tonight, it's me and you, mano y mano. Me and I'm going to guess somewhere between 300 and 400 of my favorite friends from around the world. So, as we join together to ask questions and give answers about luxury watches, I may as well start with one of my own. Of course, tonight I'm wearing my Amvox. I've been on a car kick lately, as you guys have probably noticed in the show, talking a little bit about wheels almost as much as I talk about watches. Now, I'm excited about both, and I love this watch because it combines both in a single unit. You've got your discrete Aston Martin wings on the back, a 2006 limited edition of 750 pieces. You've also got the pusherless chronograph system where the case itself is the articulated switch to start, stop, and reset the watch. Love it to bits. It's my Amvox 2 chronograph. We're going to talk about chronographs tonight on the show. I can see Eddie Landsberg joining in, Rich Buddy, Aaron Murphy. I can see we've got Mark Thorpe, Captain Zed, Daniel W., and Philip Sebastian Peterson. Welcome, guys. Welcome all. I can see we've got Eli joining from Sydney, where it is quite literally morning. So morning to you, Eli. Okay, so guys, our poll is going to be interactive. I'm going to ask you this or that, so you're going to pick between two high-end manufacturers from Geneva offering you complicated chronographs. I'm posting the poll link into the live chat box right now. You can also see it in the description below. So what are the options? Let's go with Geneva giants of high horology, this or that, between FP Journe with the Line Sport Chronograph Monopoussoir Retropont and the Patek Philippe 5990 1A, the Nautilus Travel Time Chronograph. Okay, let's jump right out into the testing zone with FP Journe. This is a new watch that came out in just the last few months, seen in public for the first time at SIHH and FP Journe's first appearance at the Geneva show. This is a watch that's 44 millimeters. In this case, we're going with the anodized titanium version, based on the 2017 only watch that caused quite a sensation when it created the highest auction yield ever for a new independent brand watch. Now, this has a dynamic and layered dial. I saw the original prototypes being made at FP Journe's dial factory. What sets the titanium version apart from the platinum and the rose gold is that, like the Sonograph Line Sport, you actually have caliber cutouts, so you can see through to the caliber 1815 from the dial side. Sapphire viewports, fully luminescent. I really appreciated that. Plus, there is, you can't see it too well, but there's a sort of Mobius strip bezel held in place with bolts that surrounds each of the sub-registers on the dial. Tachymeter scale outboard, and a practical, surprisingly practical, grand date mechanism. When are you going to use a split-second chronograph? Probably never. When are you going to use a grand date? Probably every day. Dating correspondence, memos, and emails. I can see Top Secret Vid saying, the FP Journe looks stunning. Matt Forster saying, I'm not sure about the look of the FP Journe. He's all about the Longa 1815 chrono. Okay, guys, once again, I'm posting the link to the poll. So Patek 5990 or FP Journe Line Sport Chronograph Monopoussoir Retropont. Now, what I love about this watch is that you get a full titanium bracelet to match the titanium watch. It features rubber rub buffers, so essentially all the contact points where the bracelet is likely to hit the table or a surface are covered in vulcanized rubber. So you have a little bit of protection built in. And you can also see that it features a deployant clasp, and this is so important, price-appropriate sizing screws for removing the removable links of the bracelet. We're going to come back to that in a moment because they're not universal. Okay, now let's remember, guys, you're really buying the movement with this watch because anyone can put together a 44 millimeter titanium sports watch for a few $1,000s. What sets this one apart is FP Journe's own caliber 1815, which is a manual wind, 80-hour power reserve, split-second column wheel chronograph with aluminum plates and bridges. That's right, the caliber itself is built of exotic materials. While the outside is titanium, the inside is aluminum. Also worth mentioning, it features an incredible size of 40.5 millimeters across. The movement by itself in this watch is bigger than most Rolex cases. And it features dual column wheels, which are both a treat to operate and look really cool. All right. 21,600 vibrations per hour, a lateral clutch with an oscillating pinion that's designed to reduce the jump. There's still a little bit of jump. It's not as smooth as a vertical clutch, but it is better, and it's beautiful. And because it's manual wind, you can see all of it. $61,700 US. Once again, The link to the poll for you to pick the winner is in our live chat box. I just posted it again. Now you're going to find out the competition. All right, Patek Philippe 5990 1A. This is the Nautilus travel time chronograph that came out at Basel World 2014. Launched in 2014, this takes two things hitherto not combined by Patek Philippe: a sports watch chronograph and a travel time complication. Now, you remember the Nautilus chronograph, the 5980 from 2006, and you remember the 5164 Aquanaut travel time from 2011. You combine those two things, you get this watch. Okay, it wears larger than its 40.5 millimeter stainless steel case, but it's under 13 millimeters thick, so it's only about as thick as a Rolex Daytona. Pretty impressive, all things considered. It has a clever hidden travel trigger arrangement. First glance, you're gonna miss them, but you can see right here, you actually have two pushers on the 9 o'clock side. One advances, one retards the travel time function, and it actually preserves the winglet design of the Nautilus case. Again, if you didn't know to look for them, you wouldn't see them. Also, impressive case finish. While I love the Journe's dark aesthetic, the anodized titanium look, the bottom line is that this really is hand finished. The facets that are sharp, the facets that are rounded, the facets that are satin, the facets that are polished, you're getting an awful lot of hand finishing within and without this particular watch. So that adds real value for me. Also, I want to mention that it has a clean dial, considering you're talking about travel time and a chronograph all in one. This is a very clean dial design, guys. It could have been an absolute mess, especially on a watch that's only about 40 millimeters. Patek Philippe pulled it off. Art design is excellent. Also important, caliber 28/520, it's CFUS, which basically means it's got a calendar, it's got travel time, it's a chronograph, and yes, it's a flyback. Automatic winding, 45 to 50 hour power reserve. I'm going to be honest here, this is a watch that is better finished on the caliber than the FP Journe. Now, you trade with the FP Journe the visibility of the manual wind movement, which you get on the chronograph monopoussoir. You trade that for the level of finish, because in the Patek, make no mistake, half of this movement is always going to be covered by the winding rotor. But I'll also say the mark of integrity with the Patek is that on the dial side, which you cannot see, it's finished just as nicely. That means a lot to me as a collector, because that's added value, integrity. That is a company that makes an incredible promise inherent in its pricing, keeping the promise in the product it delivers. Now, I'll also say water resistant to 120 meters. This is far more than the 3 to 5 ATM of the FP Journe. FP Journe says, yes, you can swim with the Line Sport chronograph monopoussoir, but if you really want to get into water sports, you want 100 plus, and Patek gives you that with this Nautilus. I'll also say that at $53,300 US, this vertical clutch column wheel flyback chronograph is objectively much more affordable than the $61,700 FP Journe. So which one do you go for? Especially considering, as good as Journe resale is, there's been some controversy about the Rattrapant monopoussoir in all of its forms. There is some disparity. If we could bring up the FP Journe one more time, there is some disparity between the size of the bracelet and the size of the case. Aesthetically, it's going to be polarizing, whereas Patek did a much better job of taking its basic Nautilus shape and grafting in the chronograph and the travel time. Aesthetically, I think I go with the Patek Philippe. For the sheer weirdness factor, as well as the novelty, I lean FP Journe. So guys, can we pull up the results of our poll so far? Remember guys, we're going to be updating our poll results throughout the episode. The poll link is in our live chat. All right, the Nautilus. 2/3 of you guys are all in for Patek Philippe. I'll admit, it's probably the better looking watch, and in as much as it's a flyback chronograph and a travel time, probably a more practical watch. Plus there's the water resistance. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying about this. Liba Campbell Roberts saying Pateks are phenomenal. Ian Chan saying subtle is good in favor of the Patek. Shannon from Germany saying the 5990 is not subtle on the wrist, while Anthony Lamb is saying I absolutely agree with you, Tim, on the aesthetics of the Journe. Get out of the Jean boy is saying the watch itself, the FP Journe, is ugly. All right. Where I have Top Secret Vid saying he's all about the Patek, and Ian Chan saying Patek, for me, I travel heaps, and the Journe is simply too big. I will say the The aesthetics of the Journe are weird, the ergonomics are very good. I have a spindly little 16cm circumference wrist and I can wear this thing. Also, I can see right here Russell996 saying, I'm a Patek and Nautilus fan, but I vote for the FPJ. Okay, you know, I have to say this is an impressive split in the chat box. The tail of the tape, however, in the poll is that you guys are all about the Patek Philippe. All right, guys. Now, of course, stay with me, Tim_Masso on Instagram when the broadcast ends. I love to post frequently, and I love to post video. So if you like what you see here, check Tim_Masso on Instagram and definitely follow me for the latest updates. All right. Comment in the description below if you're watching this taped, and subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe, get our content for free every single day. Wrist shots, I asked and you answered. Now you guys are going to find out which of you I chose for our first 3 user wrist shots of the night. That's right. Robert Dixon of Scotland rocks on land and sea with his Tag Heuer Aqua Racer Caliber 5 and a spectacular green F82 BMW M4. He's shown me this car before. I got to see more of the watch and the car in the future. Robert, make a comeback on my wrist shot. Please, show me the whole car, show me the rest of your collection, and you'll be an instant inclusion every time. Peter B. shares his Blancpain 50 Fathoms Aqualung limited edition and his family mini. The Aqualung limited edition was a pseudo-vintage-inspired, contemporary luxury watch with a little bit of the past and a whole lot of the present. I want to say this was from 2011 and they made 500 pieces. It was the year after the 500-piece NORAD. And of course, he's driving in style. It's the junior BMW to Robert Dixon's BMW M4. BMW, of course, making Mini today. Well, Nader wearing 2 watches in one with his Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso Tribute Duo. From the Anniversary Collection 2016, the 85th anniversary, this was easily the most attractive watch besides the Gyro Tourbillon that came out that year. Absolutely stunning with blue indices, hands, and a studded granular dial. Nader, beautiful watch. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to see your watch on my big screen. All right, viewer mail and questions. By the way, guys, this is a live chat, so keep asking me your questions. Sebastian Palacios, Tim, what would be your perfect beater watch? Okay, I'm a bit of a JLC fanboy, but I'm going to tell you in good conscience, I would pick this watch regardless. The Master Compressor Memo Box. It's a dive watch with 100-meter depth, internal rotating bezel, which I prefer to a chronograph because I rarely time things longer than 60 minutes, and a Memovox alarm and a date. Everything you need in a 41.5mm stainless steel case. Pick them up for between $5,000 and $6,000. It's a wonderful complication whether you're diving, driving, traveling, or just chilling. Something you can wear literally with anything in any occasion, and a watch that I feel has some upside in the long term as a collector piece. They're already well regarded in the forum online. And again, very accessible for a handmade watch for $5,000 to $6,000 from a great brand. Okay, Edward Ledden, Tim, can I send you some Omega Jaguar wrist shots? Yes, you can. Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com. Send me your wrist shots and your car. All right, viewer mail and questions. Sub $10,000 chronographs from boutique brands. Cameron R. asks, hi Tim, I'm interested in buying a chronograph as my next watch, and I'm willing to spend a maximum of $10,000 US. Also, I want to avoid major brands, so for me, Rolex, Omega, Breitling, and even Zenith, because they're chronograph heavy and maybe a little bit chronograph played out, are not on my agenda. So, truth be told, he's narrowed down the options quite a bit by excluding those huge historic families from major brands. But you've got some great options on the table from smaller brands. We're staying within the $10,000 budget, $10,000 US. So working within those limitations, let's take the lay of the land, starting with Habring. Okay, so from Habring of Volkermarkt, Austria, you have the COS in steel for $8,400 new, and you have the COS in titanium for $9,200. What don't you see there? Chronograph pushers. Awesome story here, but the man behind IWC's original Doppelchrono is also the genius engineer and watchmaker behind the COS system, where the chronograph and time setting is all done through the crown. All right, so this is a unique offering from Richard and Maria Habring. They're a business unit as well as a couple. Aren't they cute? They even have a dachshund. I love those guys. All right, so 42 millimeters manual wind, 48-hour power reserve, single point of control from the crown, and they have a patented mechanism that they created specifically to make this work. It doesn't just work well in theory. I've held it in the hand. It is very robust, crisp, and inspires confidence. This is a tough mechanism in a tough watch. I'll also say there are many epic custom options out there in terms of the hands, the dial, the strap, even the case finish. When you're talking about only a few units per model per year, all handmade, all to suit, you can do some amazing things for under $10,000 in a full custom mode with Habring. I'll also say this, this is a watch that you can pick up pre-owned for under $7,000. That's an awful lot of money. But keep in mind, you're talking about independent horology from a guy who, in terms of his watchmaking cred, can stand toe-to-toe with the likes of Voutilanen and FP Journe. So do I think this is a buy? Hell yeah. We're below pre-owned Daytona territory here from a great name, and it's based on the Valgrange A08, so it's basically mostly an ETA caliber modified. Reliable, tough, and fascinating. This is a conversation starter. I'll also say that staying independent for the time being, normally we wouldn't be discussing a $30,000 watch in this company, but market ignorance is your best friend here from a company I love. In 2014, the same year that Patek Philippe 5990 came out, Arnold & Son, which is the watchmaking brand of movement manufacturer La Joux-Perret, released the 44mm stainless steel Arnold & Son CTB. Now, it's got a little bit of the aesthetic of a Patek Philippe 5235, but that's okay, because that's a good-looking watch, and the watch innovates in its own right aesthetically. It combines center deadbeat seconds for the time of day with center chronograph sweep seconds, so you have one deadbeat second hand on center, and you have a sweep seconds hand also on center, chasing each other. It's very compelling in person, and the CTB dial features an imposing range of grayscales and textures and tones and finishes and blue accenting that really pops against the gray backdrop. It's a handsome and clean aesthetic that's easy to read at a glance, and I'm absolutely in love with these old school pump style pushers and the bowl-shaped concave case. Moreover, this is a true handmade and hand-finished watch. We're in the realm of the Audemars Piguet, Royal Oak Offshore, and the Vacheron Constantin Generation 3 in-house caliber overseas here, and we're close to the price of a Nautilus 5711. This watch retails for between $27,000 and $28,000 US, completely hand-finished with a glorious case back. And I mean truly glorious, that allows full visual access and appreciation of the in-house column wheel automatic caliber 7103 with a 50-hour power reserve, a spectacular Côte de Soleil finish, mirrored hand-laid anglage that is so broad and beautiful, you don't need a loop to appreciate it, polished screw heads, absolutely gorgeous, going toe-to-toe with the best from the big three and Longa. This is an overlooked gem, and this Arnold & Son CTB, which is a JLC Duomet and Journe Sonograph killer, can be picked up for between $9,000 and about $9,500 pre-owned and still under warranty. Again, collector ignorance is your friend here. Get a boatload of watch for pennies on the dollar. This is something I would buy with my own money. Okay. Alexi Simola from Finland saying, that Arnold & Son is amazing. Peter B saying, never heard of Habring, very interesting. Definitely look into Habring. You're going to like what you see. Richard Habring was previously a genius complication engineer for IWC, where he invented the Doppelchrono, and for Longa, where he was part of some of the revolutions created in the early 2000s. This is a guy under his own name who's selling you watches that would be cost for any other company doing complications. Real integrity. All right, AMG, I see your question. I'm not going to lose that. Moving along through your chronograph options, sub $10,000. Not Rolex, Breitling, Omega, or Zenith. JLC Amvox 2. I'm wearing one tonight, so I'm speaking from the standpoint of one who's put his money where his mouth is, and Amvox 2 DBS. These two watches were released in 2006 and 2007, respectively, a tribute to 80 years of Jaeger dashboard instruments like tachometers and speedometers. Jaeger dashboard instruments in Aston Martin cars. This is a real history that has been consolidated into a watches and wheels co-branding that does not feel contrived. Because again, there was a relationship here that predated the watch. There it is right there. And so the auto-inspired 3D dial of these Amvox 2s and DBSs is deep and rich, handmade, textured, colorful, animated, and note how the bottom 90 degrees of the dial isn't calibrated, just like a vintage speedometer. Do you have to be into the brand of cars? No. Does it help? I love Aston, I love JLC, so this is a perfect storm for me. But if you just love cool watches, the pusherless chronograph system with the articulated case, the handsome and avant-garde dial with visible chronograph hammers is going to be compelling. You can also get it in 44 millimeters in titanium in a black titanium case. So the black tie case is a very striking look. They made 500 of those. They made 750 of mine in bare titanium. The sliding trigger lock on the case is part of the pusherless system that allows you to fat finger the chronograph by touching it 12 or 6 to start and stop it when you're wearing, for instance, racing gloves. Or if you're a race fan like me, when you're trackside at the 24 Hours of Daytona in February or January, more likely, January is when they hold the race, it's going to be cold enough, even in Florida in the winter, that you're going to want to use your gloves to actuate your chronograph. With this system, you can. Try that with the screw-down crowns of a Rolex Daytona. Finally, the JLC Amvox 2. Only 100 of any given version of the Amvox 2 and the DBS were made. Objectively, they're rare watches. Supply is ample at the moment, though. You can pick them up for between $7,000 and $9,500 in steel for the DBS, titanium or black titanium. Okay, now I can see Watch Yoda saying, you need to do Arnold & Son among these options, but you've got to get it pre-owned or you take a hit. And I can see Philip 2 Blue saying the Habring 2 Sector Dial limited edition for Watch You Seek. There's also a Time Zone limited edition, a 20th anniversary 2015 version that is very, very handsome. There have been so many micro editions of the COS made in like half a dozen to 2 dozen that you really have to look around, because no matter what, you will find the one that makes you fall head over heels in love. I've even seen purple dials. They're that diverse. And I can see right here, Eli saying the movement is absolutely awesome. I can see right here, you have Aunt G asking thoughts on coaxial chronographs, better than Rolex's Daytona or El Primeros. We'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, Blancpain Le Mans Flyback chronograph. This is going to be the last of our smaller brand, sub $10,000 chronograph options. This is a watch that came out towards the end of the 2000s and was built into the early 2010s. This is a charming reminder of how righteous Blancpain product design was before the L Evolution series took their eye off the ball, and perhaps more pointedly, before Swatch Group put all of its premium watch development dollars into Breguet. Blancpain was on a roll for a while, and this watch can still be yours from that golden era. 40mm titanium case with a caliber F185 vertical clutch column wheel automatic winding flyback chronograph caliber that is both hand decorated and handmade. It is beautiful. It's also protected in a case with 100-meter water resistance and screw downs. So in terms of size, you could wear this on any wrist. In terms of design, it is sporty with the red tones on the dial, but it is not so overtly boisterous that you wouldn't wear it in formal occasions. And the muted gray tones of the titanium case are slick. Again, perfect for any occasion in satin finish. Plus, this is a complicated, striking dial design that is nevertheless timeless. That watch could have been made in the 90s, the 2000s, or last year. In 10 years, it will still look just as good. Plus, you can purchase this versatile, rare, handsome, and handmade watch for under $8,000 with all boxes and papers. So for me, this is a watch for literally everyone to love and the select few to own. Okay, so I can see right here, everyone is about Habring tonight. And okay, so let's start with the question that we had from, I believe it was originally from AMG. He had a question. Tim, what do you think of the JLC Master Compressor Diving Pro Geographic? Too much of a tool watch? Okay, this is a watch that has a mechanical depth gauge, a 47mm titanium case, and a world time function. All of this could create the ultimate adventure watch for world wanderers who travel to places where you don't have to worry about showing off your wealth on your wrist, because everyone will see it. At the same time, it's so big, I don't even think Stallone and Schwarzenegger could wear this one in earnest. This is the only JLC I can think of that can put a PAM 341 Egiziano, the Egyptian, to shame. Is it too much of a tool watch? No, but it might be a little bit too much watch for your individual aesthetic tastes. Try it on your wrist, tell me what you think. This is a watch that feels most at home on a big wrist in an informal, adventurous, offbeat, I would say like kind of Everest expedition or Amazon expedition type of setting. This is not a watch to take to Sandals down in the Caribbean. This is a watch to take when you're going off the map. All right. So more questions coming through. I can see we have from Matt Foster saying, I love my Amvox 2. JBO Surf asking, any Blancpain chronos under 10K that are worthy? You asked and you have received, guys. Okay, and AMG saying, speaking of the Amvox 2, Tim, have you ever seen a JLC Amvox 2 transponder in action? In action, no. Have I done a video of one? Yes. And I can confirm that there was a split before 2009 and after 2009. Aston Martin changed its security system. So you do have to have the right version of the transponder. There have been at least 4 for the Aston Martin that you own, to say nothing of having it programmed for your specific car. All right. I see right now we have Eddie Landsberg asking, Tim, have you bought any of your watches at retail? I've never bought a watch at retail, but I have bought 2 of my watches new. I bought my Duomet and I bought my first JLC from London Jewelers. I bought the Master Compressor Extreme World Alarm Tides of Time limited edition, my big blue watch that I threw once. The watch that I threw that flew, that I bought at a discount from retail, but I did buy it new. All right. We can see some folks joining late. That's all right. We love you all the same. Glad you're with us tonight. Also, I can see Watch Yoda saying Aqualung Flyback Chronograph. Excellent choice. And Daniel Chapman saying for value, you can't beat the Longines Big Eye Vintage Tribute. That's a good choice. Okay, so guys, can we bring up the results of our poll? We're voting all episode long tonight. Do we prefer the Patek Philippe 5990 Nautilus Travel Time Chronograph, or do we prefer the FP Journe Line Sport Chronograph Monopoussoir Retropont? And we've still got 2-1 the Nautilus winning the battle. Okay, so I just posted. You guys joining us? Your vote counts. We're going to keep updating this. All right. So Mohanad asks, could you explain when it is appropriate to use a watch winder, when it is not, and give some good general advice on which ones to buy? All right, so the easiest way to start with watch winders, which is an explosive topic, this is very much like Hublot or no Hublot. So Hublot or no blow. People get very passionate about this. Watch winders or no, people get very passionate. So here's my cautionary guidance, just to get this off my chest. Never buy the cheapest eBay winder that you can source from China. If it looks too good to be true, and the shipping estimate is measured in months, not days or weeks, it probably is. All right, often the static magnets of these cheapos are not shielded, so these cheap winders will magnetize your watch. They're almost never programmable to operate intermittently, so they will wear out your watch's winding system because they just keep tumbling. And finally, many of these El Cheapo winders cannot be set to run bidirectionally, which is a major wear concern. For those of you who do want to use a winder, always set it to run bidirectionally, whether your watch runs bidirectionally or not, and always set it intermittently so it doesn't run full time. Never run a winder full time. This is great guidance. That's the tilt-a-whirl. But it does the same thing to your watch that the tilt-a-whirl does to your entrails and your stomach, and most importantly, the funnel cake that you just ate at that carnival. By running full-time, you wear out your winding mechanism. A watch is designed to keep time 24 hours a day. That part of your watch is designed to run full-time without stop. But a winding mechanism is only engineered to run for the 8 to 12 hours a day that its owner is physically active. For the rest of the day, it's designed to sit, and the durability that's engineered in assumes 12 hours at least of downtime. So don't set your winder to run full-time. Running your winder 24 hours a day will ensure that your watch needs to be serviced in roughly 1/3 the interval it would normally have before going back to the factory. So that's money out of your pocket, or you're playing with fire and risking damage if you stick to the standard service interval. Never run a winder unidirectionally. Yes, some watches do have unidirectional winding. My JLC does. Most watches based on a Valjoux 7750 wind unidirectionally. But I will say this, even though many wind unidirectionally, it's important to keep the lubricants of winding and reversing systems evenly distributed. Also, it requires you to set your winder to run bidirectionally, so you have to have that feature and remember to use it. Even though the rotor winds in one direction, if the rotor only winds in one direction, you may find that half of your winding system that's involved in reversing never gets used. So just make sure you set any automatic watch to wind bidirectionally, and try to avoid using winders when it's really not necessary. When you have a watch that has 2 hands and winds automatically, or even 3 hands and a date, considering the 20 seconds it takes you to correct your Rolex Submariner, it's not worth taking what should be a 5-year service interval and reducing it to 18 to 24 months by running the winder full time. I would argue that there's no need for a winder, even if you run it part-time. It's simply not necessary on a watch like this. Periodically, pick it up, wind it, run it, you're good. And finally, I will say, for the owner of complicated calendars, using winders is understandable and practical within reason. This is where Mike Michaels and I both believe you can absolutely use a winder, and it's not the wrong thing to do. Be smart about it. Buy a great winder, set it to run intermittently, set it to run the correct number of turns, and set it to run bidirectionally, and you should be good. So now, Mohanad also asked, how many rotations should I program into my winder? Here's a little open secret. Orbita keeps a sweet database on its website that is both searchable and interactive. It will give you every caliber and how many winds are necessary. It also tells you, even though I don't like this, which systems run bidirectionally, unidirectionally, and if unidirectional, which direction they wind in. Remember, take the number of winds and make sure that your watch winds that number of turns in both directions. That's my pro tip for using this system and your bidirectional winder. Finally, he asks, which winders do you recommend? Okay, I wouldn't go cheap. So at the entry level, I would say look for something that is entry level but respectably made to a high standard, like Orbita and Wolf. These are not high-end luxury winders, in as much as any winder isn't a luxury. It's a luxury, but it's not luxurious. So I would say the next step up would be something like Swiss Cubic. This is a company that makes a series of winders. They go from individual units to full units, where you can have your entire collection tumbling. They are the white label manufacturer for Rolex branded watch winders, so they make good stuff. You will pay a little bit more than you'll pay for Wolf and Orbita, but I do feel the quality is commensurate. Finally, go whole hog. You want to spend more money on your winders than your watches? Buben and Zorweg is what you need. Now you can buy a full safe. You can buy a watch winder that's climate controlled. You can buy a watch winder that has a built-in mechanical clock. And most importantly, you can buy a winder that's on par with your Richard Mille RM52 or your Patek Philippe application piece. So if you want to spend a ton of money on a winder as a status symbol, Buben and Zorweg. And they do make smaller units. But again, if you're going to buy the Bentley, buy the Brooklyns. Okay. So that's winders. I can see comments coming through. Eric Nielsen is mentioning you can find Orbita.com, go to database-search. That's absolutely true. Question from I Like Watches. What is the best finished movement for around 10,000? I have to say, honestly, that Arnold & Sons CTB, it's a $30,000 watch you can buy pre-owned for under $10,000. That caliber 7103 is in this discussion. So throw in the Arnold & Sons CTB for under $10,000 pre-owned. Throw in, I would say you want to look at 10,000 on the nose. You could probably find a first generation 37mm Alung und Zona Saxonia. And I would also say that a Jaeger LeCoultre Master Ultra Thin 34 with a display case back is also going to be in that discussion. Beautifully hand finished. Not quite to Geneva seal type levels, but up there. Solidly the level of what you'll see on an in-house Audemars Piguet 3120 caliber. So consider those as options. Also, I can see right here we have questions from Amir. Tim, any thoughts on Doxa dive watches? On the vintage front, massively overpriced. New, good pre-owned value. I think you can jump out there and get yourself a Doxa sub with any of the various styles they offer. I would just go with a traditional, they're all basically vintage reissues. Go with a T-Graph if you're into a chronograph, or just get a conventional orange dial Doxa sub 300 and be done with it. They're handsome, they're pure utilitarian watches. I would say if you want a Swiss answer to a sin, Doxa has your number. Again, I like them better pre-owned. They also ship with some very nice accessories. For a minimalist watch, they do have a very nice accessory set. Okay, wrist shots, guys. Also, I see Lucien S. is saying, thoughts about Patek 5119 as an everyday? It's a caliber 215 manual wind Patek Philippe hobnail bezel Calatrava. Unless your everyday routine involves CrossFit with your watch or some sort of crazy aggressive profession like Navy SEAL training or high-impact construction work with a jackhammer, you should be able to wear a dress watch every day. Someone asked me on my Instagram, can I wear a JLC Reverso Duo every day? I wear a Reverso Tourbillon every day, and I've had no problems with that Platinum Grand Complication watch. My Reverso Duo, I'm ashamed to say where I've worn that watch. Definitely rougher handling than anticipated by the designers, but that is absolutely an everyday watch. And a 5119 is beautiful, handmade, traditional Patek Philippe that you can wear every day. Again, unless you're self-conscious about letting people know you have Patek money, or you've got some crazy active lifestyle that involves getting your watch wet or shocking it, go for it. No reason not to. Okay, I'm going to answer Philip Two Blue's question on the 38mm Blancpain Bathyscaphe after we talk about user wrist shots. Okay, Matt F., man after my own heart, taking the checkered flag with his Amvox 2 Paris Boutique Edition. They only made 24 of these. It's a gorgeous white inverse hobnail dial with checkered flag style registers and shocks of orange, very much like mine, but much less common, and almost like a modern day Paul Newman type of aesthetic. Congratulations on an absolute JLC Grail, Matt F. Eric T. catches a full-fledged Grail with, and this is a Grail of mine, with the Rolex Chronograph 116263 Japanese market LE from 2011. This was a series of 100 pieces with the Chronograph bezel, a black dial, and 100 pieces with the same setup and a silver dial. There are green accents on the dial on both versions, 200 made in both variants. Ultra rare to the point that some Rolex dealers will initially refuse service on these because they think they're aftermarket watches. Rolex Geneva, as well as Rolex Japan, knows better. This is a holy grail for Rolex guys, and one that the vintage snobs don't know about yet. So if you want to get ahead of the curve and collect, be like Eric. Go for the Chronograph Japanese market limited edition. Finally, Ronnie E. is our French connection, wearing the Pékinier Calibre Royale. Calibre Royale. It is their 88-hour free-sprung, full-balance bridge, manufacture caliber with power reserve in a beautiful, simple, and timeless dress watch setup. Now, Pékinier, they were skirting bankruptcy last year. They came back from the brink. They're based out of Morteau, France. One of the best ways to get into French-made watches without worrying about the hornet's nest of the vintage scene. These guys are absolutely charming, old school, low volume, and right now I'd say they're definitely a watch nerd watch that needs to be up there with the likes of Nomos as a cool, offbeat, independent brand. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to get your dial on my screen. All right, guys. Now, okay, what do I think? This is to go back to Philip's question. What do I think about the Blancpain Bathyscaphe 38. First, let me tell you that if you wanted to get the original Bathyscaphe 38, it was an anniversary watch. I want to say it was made in 2015 for Revolution magazine, which is usually occupying the space behind me on these shelves. So if you want to go with the 38 that no one else has, go with that. Now I'll say this. This is the most versatile current 50 fathoms. It is much smaller than the 45mm 5015, which is the richest modern 50 fathoms, or the 43mm Bathyscaphe Reference 5000. The 38 can wear on any wrist. It's a great unisex option. It's a great watch if you want a vintage look without the delicacy of a vintage watch. You're going to get a 100-hour power reserve, courtesy of what's basically a Frederic Piguet 1150 movement. So you're getting a high horology movement. My only objection there is that in the standard 50 fathoms and Bathyscaphe, you're getting a 5-day movement, and the 1150 is not quite as tough as the caliber 1315 in the bigger 50 fathoms. That said, there is no better 50 to wear with a suit than the 38. That is classically elegant. That is a watch that will stand the test of time. I happen to think all 50 fathoms versions will stand the test of time, but 38mm watches were hip in the 50s and 60s. They're hip today. You want to make a bet which watch is going to look right in the year 2000? Or I suppose at this point I should say 2050, 2060, and beyond. It's definitely going to be the 38. But shop around because there are now a couple of versions of it. Okay, now moving on to a question we have from Donnie V saying, now that vintage has become a snake's pit of counterfeits, refinished dials, vicious speculation, and arguably a value bubble, plus an off-putting snob fest, and I happen to agree with all of this, Donnie. Unfortunately, it is true. What are the next generation collectibles for those of us who want to buy ahead of the curve, who want to look at like the 15 to 25-year-old watch, not the 40 to 60-year-old watch that's already worth a ton? Okay, Donnie, you've got options. Let me take you on a tour of watches that you can buy in every case for under $10,000, and in many cases for under $6 or $7. So start with the Zenith Elite Rainbow Diver. This is the one you want to buy now. Also known as the Zenith Mango Diver. There were other versions of the Zenith Rainbow. This one came out in 1998. It was made till about 2001. Now, they only made 470 of the El Primero Chronograph version of this watch. From what I understand, only a few hundred of the Rainbow time-only dive model with the Mango dial were constructed. So 39mm, so it's got a classic size, 9mm thick, so it's also slim, 200 meters water resistant with a unidirectional bezel. Others were made, but the Mango dial is the future ace. It's the one to buy now before they go crazy. Now, Elite Caliber 680 inside, automatic 50-hour power reserve. It has hacking, which no Zenith El Primero chronograph until the Dayfly 21 has. And it also has a unique bi-directional quickset that sets in both directions, so that's kind of cool and different. Comfy bracelets add value. The watch was sold on both a bracelet and a strap. Get it on the bracelet because it would cost a lot more to buy separately. It will add durability to the experience. I feel like a leather strap on a dive watch is kind of cutting your options short. You want to be able to dive with a dive watch, or at least go swimming. Also, adds resale value. Even if you want to get it on the strap, buy it with the bracelet and then fit the strap. What are you going to pay? You're going to pay $2,000 to $3,500 US. Again, the time to buy is now. Collectors already know about this one, but the speculators haven't figured it out yet. Okay, Breitling Navitimer Spaciograph. In 4 years of working in watches, I've seen one. It was with a guy who was a prolific vintage collector, and he would not sell this. He would sell anything in his collection except this, because he said he liked to fly with it. It had sentimental value. This is the one he kept, and long term, he might be onto something. This watch was made from 1997 to about 2001, 2002. It was a caliber 36, which is old school because like the old reference 2005 slow chronograph, the Super Ocean dive chronograph from the 60s, this was a movement that was a ETA base modified in this case, it was an ETA base modified by Breitling. So there's actually some Breitling watchmaking here. And it counts down from 10 minutes. It was designed to be used by pilots to count down to a landing. So it counts down from 10 minutes in 30-second steps. And it steps every 30 seconds as it counts down. 41.5 millimeters in stainless steel or yellow gold. Several variants were made, including steel and yellow gold as chronometers after 2000, and steel and yellow gold pre-chronometer, so basically from 1997 to 1999. So you're going to want to look at both silver and black dials, both index and numeral dials. And yes, it came on both straps and the 7-link Navitimer bracelet. As always, I say if you're buying a collectible watch or you're just buying in general, always get the bracelet and then put it on a strap if you prefer, because the bracelet adds value and would cost more to buy separately. Plus, because we are talking about future collectible watches, the bracelet is going to be the one for the collector. Okay. I can't believe this watch is still cheap. IWC Ingenieur 3508, the famous 500,000 ampere per meter, made from roughly 1988 to about 1992. This was the first ultra-aggressive anti-magnetic watch. It was a unique caliber 35790 based on an ETA 2892A2, extensively modified by IWC and excruciatingly handmade. The assortment, so your lever, your escape wheel, your balance were all created from amagnetic, not anti-magnetic, amagnetic materials. And the hairspring itself was actually made of niobium zirconium. In the process of trying to make those hairsprings, IWC had to throw out most of them. So they wound up between 1988 and 1992 making somewhere between about 1,400 and 2,800 of these in all versions. And there are a couple of dials. There's a version on a strap, there's a gold version. They're so rare. They didn't make many if you take all versions combined, but you take the individual versions, there can't be more than a few hundred of the most popular, which would be this version, the 3508 in steel on a bracelet. They are 34 millimeters in diameter, but with the integrated bracelet, lug, and case, they wear more like a 36. So don't be scared off. This is an imposing and important borderline vintage watch that is historically significant, hugely collectible, and you're going to pay $3,500 to get into one at the bottom of the market. You're going to pay $5,500 for one in steel with a full boxed set. So a full set, you're only going to pay about $5,500 US. All right, our last speculative collectible, the collectible of tomorrow, is the Vacheron Constantin Overseas Generation 1. This is the one to buy if you're a collector, because made from 1996 to 2003, this is the rarest generation. Generation 2 is the most common. Generation 3 is going to be massively produced for a long time. Generation 1 was made before Vacheron had extensive worldwide distribution, so very few were made. By the way, how killer is that blue military dial? Now, reference 42040 and 42042 were the two automatic references. They're my choice to buy. 37 millimeters in steel, that's the way to get it. They were designed by Vincent Kaufman, who later became the first director of art design in-house at Vacheron, and a designer named Dino Modolo, who at the time frequently worked as a freelancer with Vacheron. It was inspired by the Model 222 of 1977, and you can see the family resemblance. I would say 37 millimeters in stainless steel with a hand-finished case, bracelet, and clasp. This is probably, with its hand-finished metal, the most excruciatingly detailed of the Overseas. I've seen the second generation, I've seen the third. More time went into finishing this, and you can see the polished creases between the links. I would say as much time was probably spent on this case and bracelet as was spent making two Generation 2 Overseas. So I would also say you need to consider these gorgeous bracelets because they are part and parcel to the appeal. An ultra-thin watch that is a sports watch, water resistant to 120 meters, but also so slim it can legitimately be called an ultra-thin, and AP and Patek level stuff and over-engineered in the bracelet department. I would also say options include those military dials, which you saw in blue, but also in black. and a salmon dial model described as the copper dial. Some versions of this have now begun to oxidize and develop a spectacular patina that features both tritium in the versions made before 2001 and copper. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a moment, but you get a chronometer grade Girard-Perregaux 3500 doing business as the 1310 or the 1311 Vacheron Constantin, and this was back when Vacheron made a lot of in-house modifications and went out and COSC certified it. So they start at $5,000. That's right, you're getting something, and that's what happens when that copper dial starts to oxidize. The tritium makes it even richer. But you're talking about Patek Philippe and Audemars Piguet, Nautilus and Royal Oak finish in a watch that starts pre-owned for $5,000. Right now, people are not collecting these, which means the best one in the world is still going to cost under $9,000 with full box and papers. All certificates. Buy one that has not been refinished, buy one with a full kit. Okay, so guys, questions and comments. Captain Zed, I could see the Vacheron, I could see myself trading the Vacheron I'm wearing right now for one. And also Thumper JDM saying, the dial is stunning in variable lighting. Eric Nielsen saying, if you have the wrist to match, then the 42040 and the Bathyscaf 38mm would be a killer pair to own. I have to agree on that front. These are awesome watches to wear if you want a traditionally sized timepiece. If you have any inkling that you want to wear over 40mm, these wear like 38, 39s, but they're not going to wear like a modern Vacheron overseas or a Nautilus. That said, they are to die for. And again, unrecognized. So now we have a question here. This is a little bit of a silly question. Watches and movies, I'm going to indulge. Evan S. asks, and guys, by the way, keep the questions and comments coming. I'm going to post the link to our live poll again. It's Patek Philippe versus FP Journe, Nautilus Chronograph Travel Time versus Chronograph Monopoussoir Line Sport. Okay, Tim Case, I see your question. We're going to answer Evan S.'s question first. By the way, the Nautilus is still cleaning up in this poll. Guys, vote if you haven't already. Vote again. That's the secret. You can vote twice in our polls. Okay. He asks, Evan asks, if you were to randomly associate a Rolex with one celebrity, song, or movie, what would it be? Okay, we're going to do the Rolex Submariner, but we're not going to take the easy way out, because this would be too obvious. Yes, obviously, the Submariner in James Bond. But let's get a little bit more granular, shall we, guys? Okay. Specifically, Thunderball of 1965. This is my all-time favorite Bond movie, and the one to which Mike Myers owes the largest debt of gratitude. So never mind that Breitling also wore a, oh, I'm giving away the game, that Bond also wore a Breitling Top Time modified to act as a Geiger counter. We're going to consider this a Geiger counter for the purpose of the movie. He also wore the Rolex Sub. Getting back on topic, Thunderball was a box office smash hit. Adjusted for inflation, Thunderball's box office gross was not topped until Skyfall in 2012. Now, every Bond trope and cliche imaginable is present in Thunderball. A jetpack? Absolutely. And a real one. This is actually the Bell jetpack. They used it for real in the movie. The Aston Martin DB5? Hell yeah. And there's car combat. So it doesn't just feature in the movie. You get to see the toys. This guy, come on, does it get any more classic than that? And okay, yes it does. Because the movie also includes this guy, and in earnest, not as a parody. Okay, want more? How about a luxury yacht lair that turns into a hydrofoil? Okay, also included Shark, nuclear ransoming for pathetically low amounts of money, and evil henchmen, and a woman with a harpoon gun. In other words, even at Rolex prices, you get your money's worth with this one. So that's what I'm going with. Evan, great question, silly and off topic, but if I had to associate one watch with one movie, it would be the Rolex Submariner and Thunderball. So over the top, so about the box office gross, so about the revenues, and yet so undeniably classic and lovable. Okay, Rolex and Bond, money machines, but we adore them. Okay, guys, right here, Eric Nielsen, Tell the Thunderball Top Time tailgate sale story. That's one for another time and another blog. That said, Andrew Mark is saying live and let die. Okay, that's another one. The Safari suit. AMG saying my Grail watch is the Nautilus, but I'll definitely own the X Fathoms. The X Fathoms, by the way, is a dive watch the size of a clock that you wear around your neck. I'm only slightly exaggerating. Okay, Philip Hayden saying the man with the golden gun is the best Bond. You know what? That's a good point. That's probably a close second. Plus, Christopher Lee is a Bond villain. And I can see right here, Dr. Evil, what do we have? Number 2, sea bass. They are mutated sea bass. Guys, you gotta watch Thunderball and then watch the original Austin Powers. You've gotta watch them back to back. Promise me you'll do that. All right. Are they ill-tempered? Extremely. All right. Kolak 2016, Tim, which JLC minute repeater are you chasing? I want to own the Master Grand Tradition limited edition from 2011 in titanium with open dial of 100 pieces made, or I want to own either the Master Minute Repeater Grand Faux enamel open dial of 50 pieces for the boutique, or the unlimited, but very rare, boutique edition with the black dial. So those are my 3 grails. I'm holding out for one of them. I will not compromise. Unless a car intervenes. That's my one exception. Okay. So a question, what is the sub behind me? That's a book about collecting Rolex. So that's the Kermit. That's the 2003 anniversary model. Okay, so wrist shots. All right, we got more wrist shots. I asked, you answered. Your watch on my screen. Christopher H. courts the dark side with a watch known among Langa cognoscenti as the Darth Vader. This is the 101035. The key is that it is a dark dial with a matching dark panorama datum or outsized date. Thus, it is the Darth. And you thought Devin made the Star Wars watches. All right, Ryan M. teases me with a sensation from 2015, the JLC Master Control Black Dial. Don't want to spend a lot of money for your Black Dial watch? This one is my favorite standard Master Control. 39 millimeters, black dial, all applied indices, full deployment clasp. Will I take it over the sector dial any day of the week? Ryan, you have excellent taste. And Mark S. putting us in our place with a real pilot's watch. He's wearing his Rolex GMT Master 2 116713 two-tone. Are you ready for this? On the flight deck of a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, which he calls his office, well strapped and flying in style. That's probably the best seat in a modern commercial airplane too. Easily the most fun you can have on an intercontinental flight. Unless you're flying Singapore Air, they are amazing. Credit where credit's due, Singapore Airlines. Okay, Adrian Z. Tim is a watch geek, a car enthusiast, and now a movie buff. I wouldn't say I'm a movie buff. I would say I am amateur in the strictest sense of the word. I love the material, and in the colloquial sense of the word, I am very much unversed. All right, so that's a nice Langa, Tim K says, of the Darth. Remember, that's the Darth Vader 101035 for those of you who have to run out to Chrono 24 right now and buy it. Okay, Captain Zed, Tim, do you think the JLC Master Compressor sports watches are going away for good? Considering the Polaris came back from the dead after 30 years, well, 40 years, and actually 40 years, 30 years if you consider some of the original Master Compressors, 40 years if you consider the tribute to Polaris, 50 years if you consider this year's Polaris. So no, I don't think they're going away for good. I think you will see them revived. What I don't know is whether they're going to be revealed next year or at the end of this year as a new sports watch line that continues the compressor, or if you actually see the compressor line reissued as a re-edition decades from now. That could easily happen. After all, you can't re-edition a re-edition, right? Please tell me you can't. Okay, guys, right here, Eli saying, love the 787. BS saying, I like the JLC Master Moon. And Watch Yoda noting that in addition to my rather accomplished resume of watches, cars, and apparently now pop culture, I do also race bikes. And racing season starts next month. Keep your eyes peeled for massive injuries and bicycle carnage on this show once I start racing Criterium again. Finally, Johan L., you're getting the last word for Nomos. Which model do you highly recommend? I recommend you buy yourself a Nomos Ahoy, any dial variant. Get yourself an Ahoy Datum, so you've got a 200-meter sports watch with Nomos street cred, in-house caliber. Of course, they're versatile size and case profile to wear anywhere. I would say go out and buy yourself a Nomos Ahoy, I want to say Atlantic Blau, and you've got a watch for all seasons and all occasions. Guys, send your questions to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com. And remember, comment below. I always participate in the discussion threads below my videos, and stick with me on Instagram. Subscribe if you haven't already, and you'll get our content every single day on this channel. We're back tomorrow at 6 o'clock on Watchbox Reviews with Watches Live. Until then, I'm Tim. This is Watchbox. They're the amigos, and thanks for logging on.